And welcome to the Hot Seat of College Football Show. I am Trent, your host, as today we're going to be talking about the top 10 head coaches in the sport heading into next season of college football. Let's talk about it. All right, so before we get into this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We just got to 200. We're trying to get to 1,000 before the beginning of next season. If you want to help us get there inch by inch, one by one, brick by brick, please do that. Mean the world to me. And also, take the time right now. Please hit the like button. It's how YouTube promotes the show. Videos that get likes get recommended almost double or 3 times the amount. So if you want to help grow the channel, and it would mean the absolute world to me, it's free. It costs you guys nothing. Please hit the like button. And then if you want to turn on the notification bell so you get a notification every single time I release a new video, that would be awesome too. So I want to talk about the top 10 head coaches heading into next year of the sport. I will say, I am dead right now. I got hit with a truck this morning. I don't know what type of sick I am. I don't know if it's flu or what it is, but I woke up and I felt like I was dead. My body's shaky, my ears hurt, my throat hurts, my eyes hurt, but I'm trying to come through you guys anyways for today. But yeah, I want to start off with the top 10. I do got some honorable mentions. And I got, how many did I got? I got 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 6. 6 honorable mentions for guys who just missed this list. And this is not all time. This is specifically heading into next year. Some honorable mentions. Dabo, obviously a guy that's really kind of fallen off. But, you know, like all coaches aren't at their prime for forever. I got James Franklin. I know what everyone's going to say. James Franklin is a good coach. Is he top 10? I don't think so anymore. But I do like James Franklin. I'm excited to see what he does at Virginia Tech. Kalani Sitake at BYU. I like him, but he's never really had a big win. Even the best teams in the Big 12, he can't be. But I think this is a big year for Kalani Sitake at BYU. He's getting a bunch of funding from the Mormon Church and Crumble Cookie, which, if you don't know the story about Crumble Cookie, it is hilarious. He is dealing with the past couple of years, he's had some player issues for his star players on offense getting kicked off the team, so that's not good. But aside from that, I think he's really good. And if he gets some big wins this year, I definitely think he can climb into this top 10. I know guys like Joel Klatt have had him in the top 10, but I got him just right out of it. The next one, I got Sark. Man, Sark has fallen off. He was a guy that was in everyone's top 5 for a couple years, and now I only have him in the top 10, and there are coaches in here that Sark has personally beat, but I still think the other team has had better coaches. And then the last one, a little bit of the supplies, I have Clark Lee from Vanderbilt. I get Diego Pavia was a Heisman finalist last year, but Diego Pavia wasn't even close to being a top 10 player last year. Probably not going to get drafted, especially with him being 5'9" and not 6 foot. They lied, 9, 10, 11. He was 3 inches shorter than they said he was. And obviously his personality it's worse than Shedeur. And Shedeur was supposed to be the 2nd overall pick, dropped to the 5th round. He was going to be like a 4th, 5th round, maybe 6th round pick. Would not be surprised if he goes undrafted. But I like Clark Lee. I think what he's done with this Vanderbilt, beating Alabama, almost beating Texas. This year, beating LSU, and almost beating Texas. So I thought a team that was the dumpster of the SEC for literally 100 years he was 1 game away from the playoff. 1 game away from the playoffs last year. So that'll bring us to our top 10. And at 10, I have Mike Elko from Texas A&M. And it's like, well, Sark is 2-0 versus Mike Elko. How is Mike Elko above Sark? Well, one thing, I think Mike Elko right now is currently a better coach. I think he overachieved with his A&M team. Yes, it kind of fizzled out at the end, but I think the fact that he brought a team that was notorious for being 8-4 every year, and then within 1 year, 1 game away from the SEC championship. Last year, 1 game away from the SEC championship. Yes, did they lose to Sark, and was that the reason why they didn't get in? Yes, but he's 19-7 at Texas A&M, 35-16 overall, and I think he's on the up while Sark is on the decline. And you know what? Maybe that means Sark even beats him again this year, but I still think he is a better coach. And also, Texas, even though A&M and the Longhorns both have a lot of money, Texas has money like nobody else. So, yeah. And, Texas was supposed to be number 1 team last year, and they didn't even make the playoff. A&M was not even supposed to be in there, and they got there. They actually hosted a playoff game. So, at 9, I got Mario Cristobal, and he's a guy that has really risen over the past couple of years, specifically the last two. 2 years ago with Cam Ward, 1 game away from the playoff, was the first team out, and had one of the best offenses, but a terrible defense. And then within 1 year, has the second or third best defense in the entire country behind, has the third best defense in the entire country behind Ohio State 1, Indiana 2, and then I'll probably say better than Texas Tech, but one of those top 4 defenses with those other teams. And remember, he beat Ryan Day on the road at Ohio State when he was at Oregon. So even though he has struggled in November, now that we're in the 12-team playoff, I mean, he was the first team out last year, and the last team in this year, and they went all the way to the national championship. So I like where he's at. I think he can definitely rise over the next couple of years. He's 35-18 at Miami. He is the only coach that has lost a game with a 99.9% chance to win. That was 3 years ago against, I think it was either Georgia Tech or Duke. Miami cannot beat Georgia Tech to save their life. It's pretty funny. And then overall, he is 97-78. So the overall is not as great, but he has high integrity. He found a way to bring in a bunch of transfers, adapt them, assimilate them to the culture, ascend his defense from one of the worst to one of the best in 1 year. And he left Oregon, who is a better program than Miami. He left the better job to downgrade a job to be at his alma mater, and I really, really respect that. Even though I hate Miami, I really, really respect Mario Cristobal. At 8, I have Kyle Whittingham, and this is the only one where it's like, okay, I'm kind of giving him some leeway because of his past, but man, what this man did at Utah, he was up there for 21 or 22 years, 117 and 88 overall at Utah. He took over right after Urban. Urban really brought that team to life, that program to life, and then Kyle Whittingham has just prolonged it for 21 to 22 years. And remember, Utah beating USC was the reason why Ohio State got into the playoff in 2022. So we have to thank him. Maybe I can't say I love him anymore because he's the head coach at Michigan now, but I respect the hell out of him, and deep down, I'm always going to love him. Everyone loves Kyle Whittingham, and he has such a high personal standard and such a high level of respect for himself and everyone around him, and I think he is a great coach, and he will be taking over a program that has had a riddled history of scandals at Michigan, but I am excited to see it. I think Ohio State Michigan now is going to, maybe with social media, it really made the game very, very nasty, but I think we have, since Ryan Day, remember, after the game last year, Michigan, the players blocked the M. The staff actually brought out the communication devices, the boxes, to also protect the M. And Ryan, I said, we're going to win with integrity. I think Kyle, he's at least going to try to win with integrity. And I think 2 highly integral coaches. One thing, they both played to. Remember that Rose Bowl with Jackson Smith and Jigba? One of the best Rose Bowls you'll ever see. But I'm really excited for what Ohio State Michigan become. Is it going to be kind of sad that it's less nasty? A little bit. But everyone raves about the Woody and the Bo era. Bo came from Ohio State. Urban trained with Bo. Such high respect, and I am very, very excited to see where he can do at Michigan. Yes, I want him to do. Obviously, I want him to do bad. The question is, how long is he going to be there? As long as he doesn't beat Ohio State, it's fine. But yeah, I got him at 8. At 7, I got Lane Kiffin. His overall is 55-19 at Ole Miss, 116 at 53 overall. He is an absolute douchebag. We all know it, but man, he is a damn good offensive coach. The defense is a little bit of a problem. He's kind of like Marcus Freeman a little bit, where he wins a lot of big games. And who knows what would happen if he would stay at Ole Miss. Funny that he spent this whole time trying to get Ole Miss to the playoff. He gets him there and he leaves for a team that hasn't been there in 6 or 7 years, since 2019. But he's a good coach. He's won big games. He's beaten Georgia. He's almost beaten Alabama. But man, he's had some bad losses to Florida and to Kentucky. So yeah. But I like Lane Kiffin at LSU. I like him at 7. And at 6, a guy who is on my hot seat for the top 10 coaches on the hot seat going into next year. You should definitely go watch that video. I'll pin it right here. But I got Kalen Deboer from Alabama. I got him at 10, 9, 8. So I got him at 6. 20-8 overall at Alabama, 113-16 overall. Man, he feels like kind of Brian Kelly to me. He's going to have a couple good years to start, and he's a good coach. Like, Brian Kelly is a good coach. But I don't know about the fit of him at Alabama. I don't know about the fit. Bama has gotten softer, and that's saying a lot because of how tough they were under Saban. And even in the latter years of Saban, they've kind of they weren't as, obviously you can't, with the transfer portal, you can't stock talent, but they kind of got a little bit softer. They not really even softer than most teams. They've kind of just fallen back to the pack a little bit. And so is Georgia, Ohio State under Ryan Day. They got a little bit softer after Urban and Zach Smith left. And yeah, but I think he's a damn good coach. He's won practically everywhere he's gone. He's had big wins at Alabama. He's had big wins. Georgia at home, at Georgia, Oklahoma in the playoff. He went to the national championship at Washington, and I think he is better at Washington than he is at Alabama. I think the high-flying West Coast offense, which, yes, the West Coast teams are becoming less of that because they're in the Big 12, and the Big 12 used to be an offensive league. It's kind of a more defensive league now with Texas Tech winning it, and with the other teams going to the Big 10, which is more ground and pound offense. Obviously, there's some good, obviously, Ohio State, Oregon, USC are still like offensive teams. Washington, I thought he was a great fit at Washington, but I like him at Bama. But I don't really love him at Bama. Obviously, losses to Vanderbilt, the bad Oklahoma team in 24, the bowl loss to Michigan, where you had most of your players playing and none of Michigan's starters were playing. You lost to their backups embarrassingly. And then this year, getting destroyed by Florida State. And then, they really turned it around. There was, obviously, through the second half of the season before kind of the Auburn game, and definitely before they lost to Oklahoma, people like Josh Pate were in, some people on Crane and Company. Yes, a couple of them are SEC biased, but people were picking Alabama in the preseason to win, and they were still picking them again. Obviously, the Ty Simpson injury didn't help. You lost to Oklahoma. You barely beat Auburn, which that's a rivalry game. I'm not going to hold that against you. And then you beat Oklahoma, being down 17-0 on the road, and you get crushed by the best team in the country, which was Indiana. Honestly, you can make a case Ohio State was a better team or a better roster. But Indiana played better. They were the best team that year. So, yeah, I got Kalen Deboer at 6. At 5, I got Dan Lanning at Oregon. He's 48-8 at Oregon. He used to be the defensive coordinator at Georgia. And, yeah, was talking about Kalen Deboer is an offensive guy at Washington. Look how much he improved. Dan Lanning is a defensive guy at Oregon, and that the heavy defense is really not fitting with him at Oregon. Same how it's not really fitting with Kalen Deboer at Bama. So Dan Lanning's had to completely flip his ideology to kind of more of being an offensive team. I will say he has kind of turned over the trench play. The trench play has been much, much better at Oregon in the past 2 to 3 years. But yeah, he is a great motivator. He is a super aggressive coach on and off the field in recruiting and the portal. And that's obviously a guy, he's not like young, but he's a younger coach compared to some of the other guys, especially like Cignetti. I think he might be a little bit younger than Day, but I think they're a similar age. And he's the type of guy where he can walk up to a giant, talk shit to the giant, and then kill the giant and bring you its head. If you remember the Penn State game that Oregon went on the road last year in the whiteout, he was doing like this to Mo Bamba. He was like, we're going to cut their throats. I'm like, oh my God. And they won, and it was a very emotional win. And he can get his team very emotional, and sometimes that oversteps a little bit. Obviously, remember Evan Stewart spitting on Davidson, or no, it was Trayshawn Holden, or it was one of those two receivers spitting on Davidson Igbenos in the Ohio State game 2024, 2 years ago, last year, whatever you want to call it. I guess, yeah, 2 years ago. And yeah, but when it works, and when it doesn't, there's, especially in 23, the reason why you lost to Washington is you were so unnecessarily aggressive when you played them, and you could have kicked field goals, and that's why you lost by 3 both times. He actually lost to Washington 3 times in a row, all by 3 points. And in every single one, they went for it on 4th down in the red zone, didn't get it, could have kicked the points, could have went to overtime. So yeah, but for the most part, he will do whatever it takes to win. And really, he's had some other losses. He's really only ever lost to teams that have either been to the national championship or won the national championship. Georgia in 22, they got destroyed 49-3. Georgia won the national championship. Washington in 23, they lost to them twice. That team went to the national championship. Ohio State in 24, beat them, then lost to them in a blowout in the Rose Bowl, went to the national championship, and then got blown out in the semis against Indiana, who won the national championship. And really, the last time Oregon's lost a game to a team that hasn't really won the national championship was in 22. He lost to Washington and Oregon State, which are both rivalry games. So Dan Lanning, really for the most part, has not, in recent history, has not lost a normal game to a team that either hasn't won the national championship or there's a rivalry. And the ones where he kind of lost to the OK Washington team and the OK Oregon State team, those were 3-4 years ago. So there's been a lot of improvement since. But he got blown out. Was one of the first teams out 3 years ago. 2 years ago, got blown out in the quarterfinals. Last year, got blown out in the semis. Can Oregon make a run? I have my way too early playoff prediction. I'll pin it up here. It'll be in the description too if you want to go watch who I think is going to win the national championship before spring. Next year, you should definitely go watch that. But you look at their schedule, Ohio State's the only contender really on their schedule for the Natty next year. So if Ohio State beats them, that by history, maybe Ohio State wins the national championship in 2026. I don't think so, but patterns. We notice patterns. I try to notice the patterns. But yeah, I'm trying to see if I have anything else. Super aggressive play calling, kind of like Dan Campbell. And Dan Campbell messed up a Super Bowl appearance a couple years ago because of that. But yeah, the biggest con, you got to, we're down 34-8 and 35-7 at halftime in the biggest games in the playoff. But yeah, I got Lanning at 5. At 4, I got Marcus Freeman. He's 43-12 at Notre Dame. He has elevated Notre Dame to something nobody really thought was possible, especially, who else? Brian Kelly, who was the all-time winningest coach in Notre Dame history. I think he still is. Yeah, I think he definitely still is. And he left to go to LSU because you can't win a national title at Notre Dame. Well, to be honest, Marcus Freeman has not won a national championship at Notre Dame, but he's been to a natty, and it was a blowout. Then it wasn't. Then it was kind of even now at the end. But he was one possession game late in the half. If you stop Ohio State on third down, you're 8 points away from tying, going to overtime in the national championship. But yeah, he has done something that most people did not think, especially on recruiting. He's not just dominated in the postseason, beating Indiana, Georgia, and Penn State. But he's been dominating in recruiting. If you look at their recruiting this year, the freshman coming in, he's the 5th overall high school class with 4 5-stars, and the ninth overall portal class, and the 4th total overall, and that was number 1, number 2 for a while. It kind of dropped down a little bit. I'm pretty sure it goes LSU, Ohio State, and Texas. But if you look, I think that's for 2 for 7. I think at On 3 or some of the other ones, Notre Dame is listed to have either 5 or 6 5-stars. I think that is more than the SEC combined. It used to be. They have been, and this is with the academics. In the portal, you got Mylan Graham and Quincy Porter from Ohio State, and CJ Carr, who might be one of the best quarterbacks in Notre Dame history, but up there with Joe Montana. What he is doing, a lot of people, Josh Pate, a lot of other people are picking Notre Dame to win the national championship, or at least getting there again. I got him getting close. So you got to go watch the playoff video if you want to find out where I have Notre Dame. But yeah, Brian Kelly left LSU because he couldn't recruit at Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman, who's a first-time head coach, has been accomplishing more than Brian Kelly ever has. And look at the last time. Brian Kelly won to a national championship at Notre Dame, and it wasn't even close. It was 42-14 against Alabama. That was the Manti Te'o year. But yeah, I'm just anything else for one of the best quarterbacks in their history. They're replacing the number 1 running back in the country for them. Remember, Notre Dame has been soft and irrelevant. Well, they're having the number 1 most. If you combine, because this is a really bad running back draft. If you put him in with last year's, I don't think I think he's better than Genty. And I think he's I honestly, if you ask me, I think Quinshawn was probably the best. Him and Travion were number 1 and number 2. And then it was Ashton Genty, then Amari and Hampton. I think Jeremiah Love would either be at 2 or 3, or maybe even 1. He is spectacular. And even though he didn't do much against Ohio State, he was very injured. He was hurdling guys against Penn State on a broken leg. So was absolutely incredible. And yeah, the only really cons is even though they win big games, which yes, now in the 12-team playoff, you can win big game, you can lose games, but as long as you win big games, you're still going to get in. Their schedule is not hard enough where like 2 years ago when they made the national championship, people were saying they shouldn't be in. They didn't beat anybody. Last year, they didn't get in. And they had two, I would say, amazing losses, but they didn't beat anybody else that was good. I mean, I guess USC and Pitt, but I mean, come on. But yeah, I mean, the losses against Marshall and NIU and blowing it late against A&M, I mean, I can forgive the Miami one, but man, you lost A&M like that. So yeah, sometimes the defense does not show up for Notre Dame, and that's probably my biggest con with him. But he's a great motivator. They do come out flat against Boston College last year and Purdue. They allowed 30 points on defense. But he's a young coach. He's learning at Notre Dame, who's a hard place to recruit at because of the schedule. You're not being in a conference, and you're independent in the academics. So yeah, I got him at 4. At 3, I got Kirby Smart from Georgia. He's 1-17-21 at Georgia. Used to be the defensive coordinator at Alabama in 2015. And now he's coming into his 10th year at Georgia. He started in 2016. He was, but he's a defensive mastermind. Back-to-back national championships in 21 and 22. He's a 4-time SEC championship. He's won 2 in a row. And man, prime Georgia had monsters that reek all over the NFL. Yes, like Trayvon Walker maybe didn't turn out to what he was supposed to be, but he was a number 1 overall pick, a defensive guy. Those Georgia teams on defense were so stacked. I mean, the fact that Ohio State almost beat them without a running game and a bad offensive line was incredible. That's just how good CJ Stroud is. I know it hasn't been great, but he's also had a great offensive line. But yeah, he is I think he's better. The one thing I'll say he's better than Saban at, I think he's a better situation coach I think he might be the best situation coach I've ever seen. His placement for trick plays, fake punts, end arounds, running back, wide receivers throwing the ball. Also his timeout, if you remember in overtime, the way he was delaying, making Georgia Tech upset in the overtimes and eventually led him to stop him. When he played Ohio State in 22, Ohio State wins the game if he doesn't figure this out. And somehow from the sideline, he figured out that Ohio State was going to do a fake punt, called the timeout. And yeah, he is super clutch. The problem with him being super clutch and a great motivator, he is a great motivator, but he's super clutch, is he's having to be clutch in games that he shouldn't be. Recently, I think he has regressed, which is completely fine. Every single coach in the world regresses. Even Saban regressed at the end of his career. He was so good that maybe a lot of people didn't notice it. But Ryan Day is in his prime. Curt Cignetti's probably in his prime. Lanning, I think, is about to go into his prime, and eventually they'll regress. And that's when they leave, take another job, or go to the NFL, or retire, or be a coordinator in the NFL, or I don't know. But I think his prime was kind of 21 to 23. Every coach has a 3 to 5 year prime. Maybe say it's 2017 to 23 or 22. But yeah, they have not won a playoff game in 3 years. They've been bounced 2 years in a row, bounced by Notre Dame, who they got. I get they had Gunnar Stockton, not their starting quarterback. But man, they got out coached. The thing at halftime with the fumble, the reason why Carson Beck got hurt and was out for the year was because he tried to do a Hail Mary at halftime, and that's what affected him. Against Georgia Tech, they did the same thing where Carson Beck got hurt before overtime. He tried to do a stupid Hail Mary that was never going to work. Had a very low chance of working. And then this year getting beat by first time being head coach ever, Pete Golding. And yeah, that game was incredible. That was the best game of the year. In the biggest games recently, the defense has been horrendous. It has been bad. I'm talking about 23 points in Notre Dame, which I know is not a ton, but in a defensive game where you're only scoring 10, you allowed 23. And you allowed stuff on special teams. You allowed, 39, 37 off. It was 39, but 37 offensive points to Ole Miss. 41 points to Bama last year. I'm trying to think what else. What was the one they played last year? Mississippi State put 31 on the board. Ole Miss, even though they beat them, allowed 36 points. So the defense, I guess against Texas is the only time, but Kirby owns Sark. But yeah, but even in defensive games where defense plays well, the offense doesn't play well. Both sides have been rarely playing well at the same time, especially when playing inferior teams. They're being either playing with their food, they're in dog fights with like Auburn, Florida, Georgia Tech the past couple years. I mean, these are bad teams, and I guess some of them are rivalry games, but some of these are bad teams. But yeah, I got him at 3. And I will say, in his prime, he's number 1. Number 2, if we put Saban in here. So I just think he's regressed a little bit, but I'm not saying that, like, if you take the careers of the top 3, which you guys can probably assume who the top 3 is, Kirby's number 1. Kirby is number 1. At 2, and this is going to have a little bit of controversy, and just, if you are an Indian fan, bear with me. Literally, just bear with me to the end, and I'll explain this. But I got Curt Cignetti at 2. 52-9 at James Madison. He was 24-2 at Indiana, 86-11 in FBS. That's not including FCS at Elon and IUP. But in the FBS, I think he has the best record out of any coach. He's better than Day now because he has less losses, more wins. But a lot of it was James Madison, so like really, I mean, I don't know. But he's 24-2 at Indiana. They're 16-0 reigning champs at Indiana. Greatest turnaround in college football history with Dabo at Clemson. Really, Clemson before Dabo was nothing. This is probably better, but I also the sport has changed. This is with the portal, and I'm gonna be honest. One thing, I'm an Indiana hater, but I'm gonna try to be this take is non-biased, but I am an Indiana hater. And I'm not the biggest fan of Cignetti, but I think the Indiana story will always be very famous, but I think it's going to lose its shine over the next decade because this is the first time we've ever seen this in a new version of the sport. I think we're going to see a lot more. We're going to see a lot more of what maybe not to the exact level that Cignetti did it, but we're going to see a ton, I think, of what Indiana did. We're seeing with Texas Tech right now. And yeah, so I think it's going to, and I honestly, in a decade, what Dabo did at Clemson might be a better story because that was before the portal. No, you weren't really allowed to pay anybody. That was at a small school in a bad conference, made the playoffs 6 years in a row, 2 national championships. And if Cignetti doesn't win another one, which everyone's automatically picking Indiana to win another one. I'm telling you, Indiana's not winning the national championship. I knew Ohio State was not going to win it last year. Like, I get Kirby did it, never pick back-to-back national championships. That is a stupid, especially if you bet, that's a stupid-ass decision. But, yeah. I just said I'm a hater. I don't, personally hate them. I just don't like them, and I'm a hater. But yeah, I kind of find Sig annoying a little bit. And also, I think their fans are kind of fake. Not all of them. The ones that are watching this video, I think y'all are the real ones that have been sticking around with the team the whole time. But this thing where it's no one showed up when they were bad. You know who's been bad? You know who used to be amazing, has been bad for 30 years, and is still supporting their team, sells out their stadium every single week? Nebraska. Nebraska deserves to win the national championship way more than Indiana does. You're like, well, Indiana's been so bad. Well, so is Purdue. Purdue doesn't deserve the national championship. Indiana put work in, so that is one thing. But yeah, he comes from the Saban coaching tree. He's one of the best evaluators for talents, up there with Ryan Day, Lane Kiffin, Lincoln Riley for offense, then Saban in general. But yeah, the cons, and no one's seeing it now because of how successful they were. But I've started to notice one thing it was embarrassing last year when they played Ohio State. They played not to get blown out. No one remembers that. They played not to get blown out, which was embarrassing. But no one's seeing it right now. But I'm going to be honest. I think people are going to notice, especially when Indiana kind of declines a little bit, that's saying very little because they just won 16-0, won the national championship. But he kind of tightens up a little bit. I don't know if you've noticed late games against Iowa and Oregon and the Penn State game. It's okay, why are we in dogfights with these teams? Fernando throws the pick 6 against Oregon, which Oregon's a good team, but you saw how they played them later. It's why was that game close in the first place anyways? Look what you did to them before. Or look what you did to them after you played them the first time. The Penn State game, why the hell was that game close? The Iowa game, why the hell was that game close? Iowa, I can kind of understand. Penn State, I cannot understand. And he kind of tightens up a little bit. And he was lucky that Fernando was so good. If Fernando wasn't Fernando is not a top 5 prospect in the draft, but he is the best quarterback. And I'll probably get flack for that. And if you want me to tell you the top 5 above him, I will give you a top 5 players better than him in the draft as prospects. But, I mean, if he wasn't really what he was, I mean, I don't think Indiana wins the national championship. I don't think they beat Penn State. I don't think they beat Ohio State in the Big Ten championship. And they were lucky, right? Ohio State played really bad. Played really, really bad in the Big Ten. I know, because I was at the game. But, yeah. They got a record 9 combine events in the NFL. Heisman winner is going to be number 1 overall pick. And yeah, but I think the big thing is the reason why he's not at number 1, and a lot of people are just throwing him at number 1, is after 2019, after the LSU team won the national championship, I know Ed Orgeron was 100% in everybody's either top 10 or top 5 coaches, and he was terrible. So, and I'm just saying, I'm not calling Cignetti Ed Orgeron. I think Cignetti is much better than Ed Orgeron, but you need to give him time. Give it a couple more years, because if you're wrong, you're going to look stupid. It's like, well, why was Cignetti the best coach in the country for like 1 year, and then he was just like he's the 8th best coach the rest of his career. It's like, well, everyone fell for the hype. So I'm putting him at 2. I'm giving him a lot of respect. But if Day plays better, Ohio State wins the Big Ten championship, and then maybe Indiana still wins the national championship. But we're not talking about Indiana being Curt Cignetti being number 1. At number 1, I have the head coach of the Ohio State Buckeyes, none other than the Ryan Day. And I'll explain myself, because I've been very critical of Ryan Day, and he's bounced back a lot. I mean, he is an NFL factory with stars in the past couple of years like C.J. Stroud, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Smith and Jigba, Marv, Emeka, and then soon Jeremiah, who could be the best player in one of the best players in collegiate history, up there with Adrian Peterson and Tim Tebow and Cam Newton. And then Carnell Tate, who's going to be projected first round. He's going to be a top 5 pick. And you have Caleb Downs. I mean, you have so many players. And you look at the receivers, Ohio State, if Carnell is going to get drafted in the first round, which he will, Jeremiah 100% is. Ohio State is basically guaranteed to have 7 wide receivers drafted in 6 consecutive drafts in the first round. That is incredible. And the only reason why it's not 7 from 7 years, it's 7 and 6, is because Chris Olave came back for his senior year. If he didn't, he would be a first round talent, and you have 7 receivers in 7 years, but we got 7 and 6, which I think is more impressive. But yeah, he's had the number 1 defense 2 years in a row, a top 2 defense 3 years in a row, with 2 different coordinators, one in his first year, Matt Patricia, who we got Jim Knowles, who was the best. He leaves, he sucks now. Patricia comes in, he's the best. Coming back for another year, which is awesome. Won the national championship in the longest playoff in the most dominant fashion we have ever seen for that many games. Even in a close game, Ohio State still wins by double digits. He has Ohio State at its peak right now. I think if Urban stayed 5 years longer, he wins 1 to 2 more national championships. Maybe that would be the peak, but he didn't. This is the peak Ohio State. I mean, this is incredible what Ohio State is doing right now. Losing 14 guys to the draft and then being the number 1 team for the entire year until the very end. To have JJ and that 24 team, to have Jeremiah, Abuka, Carnell Tate, Will Howard, Travion Henderson, Quinshawn Judkins, Julian Sand, Caleb Downs, Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles, Denzel Burke, who, as much as you guys give him flack, is one of the best rookie cornerbacks in the NFL right now. I mean, absolutely insane. And Arvell was a backup. That's how good this team was. Arvell Reese, who's going to be the 2nd overall pick, was a backup. And it just goes on and on and on. 24, Ohio State is, I think, maybe the most talented roster we have ever seen. He is the closest thing we've seen since Saban. He's not, obviously, no one's going to do it at the level Saban did it, just because that was the era of the sport. But, I mean, Kirby's not doing, maybe you could say Kirby's better. I don't think so anymore. But Ryan Day, seeing that we're replacing coordinators every year, replacing the entire defense and offense over a year, and we're still at the very top, winning national championships once every couple of years, is incredible. His cons is, although he is great at adapting, he can be very stubborn. Special teams has cost him a natty in 22, and it cost him the 24 natty from, instead of being 14-2 to being 16-0. The Oregon and the Michigan game were both because of Jaden Fielding. This year's season was ruined because Jaden Fielding. I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, 6. Day is 82-12. 6 of his losses, which is half, has been because of the kicker. But the level of consistency with the hires has been, I've never. That's why I said Saban is the only one I've ever seen do that. I mean, even with Georgia, Mike Bobo, like Kirby is not replacing coordinators and staff and players at the same rate Ohio State is, and this isn't an era where you can't stack rosters. Let me think. What else? Let me look at my notes. Yeah, 20-25, lost 14 guys. And they got better. The defense statistically got better. Yes, maybe because of the schedule. But yeah, I got Ryan Day at 1. That's all I have for you guys today. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. We just got to 200 subs. We're trying to get to 1,000. Also remember to like the show. It's free, costs nothing. And then turn on the notification bell if you want to get a notification every single time I release a new video. But again, that's all I have for you guys today. I'll see you guys all tomorrow. And as always, thank you.